McReynolds officially returned to Fox Sports booth this weekend at Dover, and the All-Star format for 2022 has been officially revealed, and it's not as confusing. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We've got a ton of NASCAR and other motorsports stories discussed here today on the channel. Let's go into some straight notes really quickly. We're going to start with paint schemes and sponsorship news first. Let's jump into those really quickly. The first paint scheme we're taking a look at is Patrick Emmerlich's 2022 Richie Evans throwback scheme that we're going to see at Darlington Throwback Race next weekend. This is a really good looking throwback in my opinion. It's got BR DeWitt on the side of it, which looks really awesome. Looks very similar to the late model. The wheel and modify car looks really awesome. I'm looking forward to see on the racetrack at the Darlington Throwback Race. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Anthony Alfredo's 2022 Zavetta scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Dover. I think maybe a couple other races as well. It's really cool that Anthony Alfredo continues to pick up new sponsorships. This one is no exception. I think this looks really awesome. Not sure if Leffy designed a scheme or not, but he did, man. It looks really good once again. I love it, and I'm looking forward to see on the racetrack here this weekend at Dover. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Ryan Blaney's 2022 Jack Links Menard scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Dover. Really awesome to see that Jack Links is coming on board to work with Ryan Blaney. It's really been cool to see that Menards have been able to allow other companies to work with them. This paint scheme looks really awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing on the racetrack this weekend at Dover. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Austin Hill's 2022 United Rentals Global Industry scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Dover. I love that they decided to combine two of the sponsors that Austin Hill has. You got United Rentals on the car, but you also have Global Industries that's stepping up and sponsoring Austin Hill. It's a really good combination, and I'm excited to see it on the racetrack this weekend at Dover. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Ross Chastain's 2022 Pitbull World Tour scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Dover. Kyle Stakes once again knocks it out of the park. This paint scheme looks absolutely incredible. I love the black on it. I also love the Pitbulls on the side. They do absolutely great job with sponsorship unionization. It's a good looking paint scheme, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing on the racetrack here this weekend at Dover. Next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Tyler Reddick's 2022 Alsco uniform scheme that we're going to see throughout the 2022 season. This looks really cool in my opinion. I think the number move forward actually makes it look really awesome. It's very similar to the old Alsco uniform schemes that AllStar has had in the past, but it looks really awesome. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Timmy Hill's 2022 Ricky Craven throwback scheme that we're going to see next weekend at Darlington when he drives the 13 car. Really cool to see Timmy Hill's in the 13 car next weekend. Also cool to see that they're doing a Ricky Craven throwback. Kind of looks like a Jeff Gordon throwback, but if you actually look at it more, it looks like a Ricky Craven throwback. They did a great job on it. I'm definitely looking forward to see on the racetrack at the throwback race. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is J.J. Lee's 2022 CW Sun scheme that we're seeing this weekend at Dover. Not much to say here. It looks really good in my opinion. I think J.J. Lee's had some pretty good looking schemes this year, including Hex.org schemes. It looks really awesome, and I'm looking forward to seeing it on the racetrack here at Dover. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Mason Massey's 2022 AZ Company scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Dover. Not much to say here. Really cool to see that they have a partnership with AZ Companies. Really nice looking car, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing on the racetrack this weekend Dover. Nice looking scheme. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Alex Abay's 2022 VRVictoriaville.com scheme that we're seeing this weekend at Dover. Not much to say here. Also, really cool to see the VR Victoriaville stepping up to sponsor Alex Abay. Really cool when you have new sponsors that come in and sponsor a team. Really good looking scheme, in my honest opinion. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Justin Allgaier's 2022 Hello Water scheme that we're going to see, I believe, for two races this year. I think once at Texas, I think later this year at Atlanta as well. Hello Waters is sponsoring Justin Allgaier Junior Motorsports for the last couple of years. So it is really cool to see that Hello Water is coming in and sponsoring Justin Allgaier. I think it looks really sick, and I'm looking forward to seeing on the racetrack in a couple races this season. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Kyle Larson's 2022 Tim Richmond throwback scheme that we're going to see at the Darlington Throwback Race. Now, a lot of people thought this was a Jeff Bodine throwback, but this is actually a throwback to Tim Richmond when he drove the Zero car for AllStar Racing back in 1984. This paint scheme looks absolutely incredible. One of my favorite throwbacks, and not just biased because I'm a Kyle Larson fan, but this throwback has been one of my favorites I have seen so far. I think they did an excellent and a fantastic job on it, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it on the racetrack here next weekend at Darlington. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Danny Bone's 2022 JT Gordon throwback scheme that we're going to see next weekend at the Darlington Throwback Race. It looks really, really good in my opinion. I think did a very solid job on it. It looks very similar to the JT Gordon throwbacks they've done in the past. It looks really, really awesome. Looking forward to seeing on the racetrack here at Darlington International Raceway. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is David Starr's 2022 Children's National scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Dover. Not much to say here. It's cool to see that David Starr has another sponsor that's willing to work with them. They'll be able to make it in the field, so we'll see this car in the race here tomorrow afternoon. It looks pretty good. I'm looking forward to seeing on the racetrack at the next race. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Ryan Preece's 2022 United Reynolds scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Dover. This absolutely is a killer scheme. Not only does the number look really, really good, but the paint scheme looks absolutely incredible. They do a great job using sponsorship utilization. I've been waiting for this paint scheme to come out. I've been looking forward to it, and I absolutely love this paint scheme. They did absolutely a great job. And a final paint scheme we're taking a look at is My Snyder's 2022 Taylor Media Bomberito scheme that we're going to see this weekend here at Dover. Not much really to say here. It's basically Bomberito with a different color, or basically different color on the front of the car. It's been cool to see the Bomberito's been allowing different companies to work them. I think that's really, really awesome, and I'm definitely looking forward to see on the racetrack here this weekend at Dover. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Knoxville Truck Series race, as it was officially announced their title sponsor for the event. And in shocking fashion, Clean Harbors is going to be sponsoring the Truck Series race. It's kind of ironic that Clean Harbors is sponsoring the event, considering it's a dirt race. You wouldn't think a clean sponsor would sponsor cars, but we've seen a couple times, especially this year in the Cup Series and Truck Series, where cleaning products have been sponsored these events, which I think is really, really awesome. Really cool to see a Clean Harbors coming in to sponsor. I'm absolutely looking forward to the Knoxville race as well. Hopefully it's better than last year's race. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Dover purses for this weekend. So, for the Cup race this Sunday, the Dover purses are $7,205,230. For the NASCAR Xfinity Series, it's $1,419,713. Those are pretty good purses in my opinion. The Xfinity Series is definitely a little bit down from the Talladega race. I think Talladega had like $2 million for Xfinity compared to this week, which is down to $1.4 million, but it's not the lowest the Xfinity Series had. And of course, the Cup Series having $7.2, that of course goes with a lot of the charter money, and the Cup Series gets 90% of the TV money that Bob Pocker supported. So those are the Dover purses for this weekend, and we're definitely looking forward to those races coming up. We got those coming up here tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to the races coming up here this weekend. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Brayton Laster. As Brayton Laster is going to be making his Truck Series debut at Knoxville Raceway, driving for the Raymond Brothers organization. It was not announced which truck will be driving, but I would expect he'll probably be in the 33 truck or the 43 truck for the organization at that event. Brayton Laster has been competing in the I believe been competing in ARCA a couple times this year. Has also, I believe, been competing in USAC as well. This is a really cool opportunity for the Pizza Man. Brayton Laster is a very talented driver. Has some decent runs in ARCA and also other series as well. I think that's a really cool opportunity. Overall, he just needs to make the event, and if he makes it, he just needs to survive. If he can do that, that'd be really, really awesome. And congratulations to Brayton Laster on getting an opportunity to race in the Truck Series at Knoxville. Really cool opportunity for him. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Armani Williams. As Armani Williams is going to be driving for the Raymond Brothers organization for 3 races this season. Armani Williams made his debut last year at Gateway, where he ended up finishing in 21st. For a lot of you who don't know, Armani Williams is the first driver on the autism spectrum who openly diagnosed on the autism spectrum, who was allowed into NASCAR, was cleared to race. He'll be racing at Texas, Pocono, and Phoenix this season. This is a really cool opportunity for Armani Williams. He absolutely deserves this opportunity. I know that a lot of people reckoned that Truck Series race at Gateway last year, but I think it's a cool opportunity that they feel really good, and it's a good starting spot for a driver. I know it's not a great team, so my expectations are not really high for him. I just think that what his overall goal should be is to try to get as much experience as possible going to the event. Hopefully that happens for him, and I'm very glad to see that he will get an opportunity to race in the Truck Series once again. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Danny Bone. As Danny Bone is going to be driving the 20 for Young's Motorsports next weekend at Darlington. He'll be sporting a Darrell Waltrip throwback scheme, which we'll talk about the throwback schemes later this week on the channel. But This is absolutely a cool opportunity for Danny Bone. This will be his second start with Young's Motorsports season. His first start, of course, came at Daytona, where I think he unfortunately crashed out and finished in the back of the pack. I think, like I said, this is such a huge opportunity for Danny Bone. They really should be looking forward to this opportunity for him. I hope he does really, really well. I think a top 25 in his 20 truck would be really, really awesome. That'd be cool. Congratulations to Danny Bone on getting an opportunity to drive the 20 for Young's Motorsports next weekend at Darlington. That's a great opportunity for him. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about L.W. Wright. As the Scene Vault podcast is going to have the person behind L.W. Wright on the Scene Vault podcast on Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Out of nowhere, this just got officially revealed, and this is absolutely shocking. For those of you who do not know the story of L.W. Wright, I suggest going to watch Black Flags Matters channel to get an indication on the L.W. Wright story. The story is absolutely insane. Someone tried to basically be a fake NASCAR driver and basically got away with it and got out of town. The story is absolutely nuts. You should go and definitely watch it. Now, I'm kind of shocked they found it, considering the FBI is looking for this guy. So I wonder if they find this guy. Probably, again, you're probably not going to be able to find this guy or his IP or anything like that. But this is such a cool story. They're bringing L.W. Wright on a Scene Vault podcast. Absolutely shocking, but it's really cool to see that L.W. Wright is going to be on a Scene Vault podcast. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Dr. Jerry Punch. As Dr. Jerry Punch's daughter, I think Dr. Jerry Punch's daughter, Jessie Punch, revealed that she is bringing Dr. Jerry Punch out of retirement, and he'll be on pit road at Darlington Raceway working with her media company. I don't remember exactly which company she works with, whether that's Sirius XM, NASCAR Radio, or other companies she works with, but it's very cool to see that Dr. Jerry Punch is coming out of retirement to do NASCAR. The last time Dr. Jerry Punch was involved in NASCAR, I believe, was in 2014 when ESPN's contract ended up ending. And Dr. Jerry Punch has been back working in the medical field, but now he'll be working on pit road once again. Dr. Jerry Punch was not a great commentator up in the booth, but he was absolutely amazing on pit road. That's one thing that Dr. Jerry Punch really got going for him, was he was an absolute amazing pit road reporter and always did a great job. So I am very happy to see that he's coming out of retirement. I think it's great for the sport to see him coming out of retirement. And congratulations to him on getting an opportunity to come out of retirement. This is absolutely awesome, in my honest opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about some suspensions that happened. Now, we'll get into the bigger suspension in just a little bit in the later portion of this episode, but as expected, Lee Leslie has been suspended for 4 races for the tire coming off at Talladega. Lee Leslie was the crew chief for Lift Fast Motorsports. 2 other pit crew members were also suspended from the 78 team. This becomes, I believe, the 6th team that has been affected by the tire issues this year. Farmer Motorsports had issues with Todd Gillen this year with the tire issues. Bubba Wallace has had problems with the tire issues. I also believe the Money team with Kaz Gralla. I believe that Justin Haley's another victim of this, and also now that Lee Leslie joins the list of drivers and teams that have had it. To me, in my opinion, I think that they do need to reduce the length of the suspensions. I think they need to 1 or 2 weeks, especially since we're still having issues with this. Yes, you do need to get the tires, and I understand that it's very, very dangerous, but I do think that they should at least drop a little bit of this basically the penalties. I think the penalties are a little bit worse in my opinion, and I don't think the penalties unfortunately fit the crime. I think you need to drop the penalties down to 1 or 2 weeks, because especially with the shortage of parts and everything, when you bring your crew chief out, your team absolutely struggles, and they don't really need to struggle much more than they have. So I think it's a good call to penalize them. You do have to penalize them. I absolutely agree on that, but I do think that you should probably at least go ahead and drop a little bit of penalty from the team, in my honest opinion. But again, it's my honest opinion on that. I think the penalties are a little bit excessive. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about NASCAR Gaming for 2022. As was officially revealed in a roadmap yesterday, that there is not going to be a NASCAR game this year in 2022, as Motorsports Games revealed, and instead there is going to be a season expansion that is coming to NASCAR 21 for 2022, and that is going to be the last patch. They will have DLC content for the game coming out, and then the next game is going to come out in mid-2023. I think this absolutely is a great decision that they decided to hold off on releasing NASCAR 22, especially with the fact that NASCAR 21 Ignition was absolutely a disaster of a game. And we've been promised time and time again over the years that we were going to get amazing games. but promises have been broken time and time again. There's also been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes in regards to issues in motorsports games I'm not going to get into here, but let's say a lot of stuff that I've been seeing is absolutely nuts going on with motorsports games right now. Now, aiming for mid-2023, you need to aim for that and not delay it, because if you delay it, people are going to get frustrated with you. There are barely anybody playing the game. Like 20 people are playing on Steam right now. Maybe 30 are playing on PlayStation, Xbox. They're not making money off the game right now, and they need to focus on 2023 and making the game better. They are not releasing any games this year. The BTCC game is also not being released this year. And in my opinion, when it comes to the gaming industry, we have been promised time and time again that we were going to get amazing games. And unfortunately, those promises have been broken, and the community has lost trust with these gaming companies for 15 years. We've had two really good games, in my opinion, since NASCAR 7, that being NASCAR Inside Line and NASCAR E4. I thought those games are really, really good. Controversial, I know, right? But I thought those games were really, really good. That being said, though, I do think it's the right call, but I also think that they need to fix their issues with the games going forward. It's really frustrating that a game from 20 years ago, nearly 20 years ago, is better than a game that is out now. That's absolutely ridiculous, and this was the worst game ever released. And I know they fixed some of the issues, but nobody's playing the game right now. Nobody's playing it. I know some of the YouTubers are trying to save this game, but how can you save face for this game when you release crap after crap after crap? People get tired of it. I think it's the right call they made, but NASCAR 21 Ignition was the worst NASCAR game ever. No questions asked. The worst NASCAR game got released here in 2021. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about John Hunter Nemechek. As it was announced yesterday or 2 days ago that John Hunter Nemechek is going to be running 3 more races with Sam Hunt Racing this season. He'll be racing next weekend at Darlington for the throwback race, then a race at Road America for the July 4th weekend, and then his final race with the team will be at Michigan. John Hunter Nemechek has already raced, I think, 2 or 3 races with Sam Hunt Racing this year. His best performance, of course, coming at Phoenix, where he ended up finishing in the top 10 and led a ton of laps with Sam Hunt Racing. John Nemechek has been the best driver Sam Hunt Racing has ever had. And it really, really shows, considering every time he gets in the car, he's getting that car not only really in the top 5, but is getting that car inside the top 10. And that's what really makes John Hunter Nemechek a really, really good and awesome driver, is he knows what he's doing behind the wheel. He's been also really doing a lot better in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series as well. It would not shock me if he does potentially win even this weekend at Dover in the Xfinity Series, but I would also not surprise me if he does go out there and maybe wins one of these 3 races. I know that's a hot take, but I think he could win one of these 3 races. He's a pretty good road course racer too. Got a runner finish at Circuit of the Americas. It would not shock me if John Nemechek picks up a victory. I think gets minimum top 10s every single race, but gets some top 5s maybe as well. But I think John Hunter Nemechek will absolutely be a contender here in 2022 in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in those races with Sam Hunt Racing. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the stage lengths for the rest of the season. So we do know stage lengths all the way up before the Coca-Cola 600, and they officially revealed the rest of the stage lengths. So for the Coke 600, it's going to be all 100 laps straight forward, very, very similar to how they've done it in past years. For Gateway, which I'm going to be going to that race, it's going to be lap 45 the end of stage 1, 140 for the end of stage 2, and in the final stage, we'll go to lap 240, so 145, 100, then 100. Then for Sonoma, it's going to be 25, 55, then 110. Then for Nashville, it's going to be 90, 185, then 300, the end of stage 3. Then for Road America, it is going to be 15, 30, and 62. Atlanta, 60, 160, 260. New Hampshire, 70, 80, 185, 301. Pocono, 30, 95, 160. Indy Road Course, 15, 35, 82. Michigan, it's going to be 45, 120, and then 200. Richmond is going to be 70, 230, then 400. Then Watkins Glen is going to be 20, 40, 90. Daytona, the last race of the regular season, will be 35, 95, 160. Darlington will be 115, 230, 367. Kansas will be 80, 165, 267. Then Bristol is going to be 125, 250, 500. Texas, 150, 210, 334. Then Talladega, 60, 120, 188. Then the roll will be 25, 50, 109. Then the next 2 races being Vegas and Homestead will be 80, 165, 267. Then Martinsville will be 130, 260, 500. And then the final race at Phoenix will be 60, 185. And then 312 will be the rest of your stage races for the rest of the season. Pretty good stage lengths, in my opinion. One thing I will say that's a negative, though, is that it does unfortunately negate basically the fuel mileage races going forward, except a couple of those. We could still get fuel mileage races in those races, but I don't know if we'll get any fuel mileage races going forward. But those are the stage lengths for the races. I'm kind of excited for some of those races, especially. Gateway, I don't understand why the first stage is really, really short. If you want to really third that up. Because again, 45 for the first stage, that's a really short one compared to the next stage with 100 and 100. I think they should have equaled it out just a little bit more. But those are the stage lengths. They do look pretty good in my opinion. And those are the stage lengths coming up for the upcoming races here in the season. Go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Daniel Dye. As we're talking about one of the craziest stories of this year. As Daniel Dye has been suspended indefinitely by ARCA for actions that happened this past week. So Daniel Dye this past week, it was reported earlier in the week, and a bunch of reporters are reporting, including Bob Poggers, I think Matthew Burrows also reported on this as well, that Daniel Dye was arrested on Tuesday for felony assault charge. Charging affidavit states, victim alleges Dye danced in front of him at school, basically teabagging on him, and Dye put groin in front of him at school. The student basically tried to tell him to stop, or another student tried to intervene, and Dye basically punched the kid in the groin, and he had a ruptured testicle. The kid is charging him. First of all, that is a really, really bad move on Daniel Dye's part. Daniel Dye is 18 years old. What are you... Nothing surprises him anymore. I've seen it all, ladies and gentlemen. I've seen everything in my time as a fan, and this is nothing new to me. We've got drivers getting in trouble for things I can't mention on here, and now you've got Daniel Dye who got arrested for punching a kid in the groin. Probably one of the stupidest reasons probably to get arrested. He obviously deserves it, and if the kid, in all seriousness though, talking about the situation because of this, he has been suspended by ARCA. It's unclear if he'll be racing or GMS anytime soon. This, though, in all seriousness, could be the end of his NASCAR or racing career in general before it really even gets started. Daniel Dye definitely has a lot of talent in different areas, but Daniel Dye definitely should know better to not do something like that. And I really think Daniel Dye was really stupid for doing something like this. I know I'm laughing a little bit about it, it's really stupid, but at the same token, at the same time, Daniel Dye has a lot of talent, but you got to learn, and he's not going to learn, he's probably going to have to learn from this, and he's probably not going to be in ARCA for a very, very long time either. It's going to be quite a bit of time here before we do see Daniel Dye really show up and get into the world of racing. You know, it's going to be a long time before we do see Daniel Dye probably get back in racing. It's probably going to be a couple of years because of this situation, and you know, you just can't do what he did and get away with it. It's going to be a long time. He won't be back at GMS. My question is going forward is who's going to get into the ride? Are they going to put some of their cup guys and truck guys in the field? They're going to bring some of their cup guys maybe out of nowhere into this series? Or are they just going to shut that 43 team down? Or are they going to go back to a traditional 21? Or bring someone else in that's in their development programs and Chevy developmental programs? That's what I'm thinking they may end up doing. But they also bring guys like Jack Wood in there. I think it would be really good for Jack Wood to get some experience in ARCA. I think if they were smart enough, they probably put Jack Wood in the car. Jack absolutely needs a little bit more experience. He should never been rushed up to the truck series. He struggled badly in the truck series. So if I was them, I would bring him in there. But man, 18 years old, and Roger Crew and him were in a really tight battle for the championship, and then that happens. What do you really say to it? It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts that he absolutely did that. So crazy story for sure. And Daniel Dye's career probably is a little bit already over. I mean, I can't believe that this is real stuff. I can't believe it. He was released on bond. I forgot to mention this. He was released on bond, I believe, for $2,500. But he will probably get charged. He'll have to go to court for this stuff. It could be 5 years. I think a felony assault charge in Florida, I think it's 4 or 5 years. So he can be in jail for a little bit of time and be out of the race world for a very, very long time. And it's such a shame, too, because Daniel Dye's a really talented driver. He really is. He's got a lot of talent and potential, but to make a dumb decision like that could really have hurt his career. And his career's probably over. I would not be surprised if his career's over for this. So we'll wait and see what happens long term. Both sides, Daniel's career could be over before it really even begins, unfortunately. And now we're going to jump on to the first of two major stories in today's episode, as we're talking about Larry McReynolds. As we were kind of wondering who was going to be in the Fox Sports booth this weekend at Dover, well, in really, really good news, Larry McReynolds is actually, for the first time the first regular season race of this year. He'll be joining the Fox Sports booth this weekend here at Dover. Maybe it's a week early, so I think a lot of people like myself really want Larry McReynolds to be in the booth with Darrell Waltrip, Mike Joy for the Darlington Throwback race. But I am absolutely pumped up and excited to see that Larry McReynolds is getting back in the booth. 1 week he's working as a crew chief for Jeff Earnhardt, where they nearly won the Talladega race. They had Richard Childs and Mike Dillon up in the spotter stand working up there. But Larry McReynolds doing a really good job in the crew chiefing box. I've been wanting this for a very, very long time. Now, this is not the first time this year that Larry McReynolds has actually been in the Fox Sports booth. The first time Larry McReynolds was in the Fox Sports booth was actually during the dual races, and Larry McReynolds just sounded absolutely incredible for the booth. I think he sounded absolutely amazing. If you really want my dream booth, I would absolutely have Larry McReynolds, Dale Jr., and Mike join the Fox and have Jr. do it everywhere. But that would be a dream booth. I think that would be a really, really good booth if we're going to talk about having a booth going forward. But Larry McReynolds being in the back in the booth, in all seriousness and all honesty, I think it's absolutely great for Fox. Larry brings a lot of chemistry to the booth. Larry does a great job explaining. He does have a little bit of comedy in himself, but he's also a serious, when he does this stuff, he takes this very, very seriously. He knows what he's doing. He has a lot of knowledge inside and outside the sport, and just recently was a crew chief too here a week ago, like I mentioned, at Talladega. I think that he will absolutely kill it this weekend as a commentator. This one I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time. I don't know if he'll be as good as Junior was, and that's why I think Junior should be in the booth every single week, but I think when it comes to who's in the Fox Sports booth, I think Larry McReynolds, who is already in Fox's group to begin with, it's great to see. I have been wanting him in the booth all year at a regular season race, especially after how good he did in the duels. I want to see him back in there. When they got rid of Larry after 2015, I was shocked they got rid of him for Jeff Gordon. That's no disrespect to Jeff Gordon, but Larry McReynolds had killed it, and that trio had done such a good job. And for the last couple years, we're kind of falling off a little bit, but they had so much magic and chemistry that I think it's so good to see that he's back in the booth. If I had to choose a dream booth right now, Dale Jr., Mike Joy, and Larry McReynolds. But I am very pumped to see Larry McReynolds is back in the booth. I think he's going to do an excellent and great job. And like I said, I'm very pumped up and excited to see that Larry McReynolds is going to get back in the booth here this weekend with Fox Sports. And now we're going to jump on to the final major story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the All-Star race format. The All-Star race format has been officially revealed, and I have to say that the All-Star race format this year is not as chaotic and not as stupid as last year's All-Star format. One thing to know is that they're going to be shooting human cannonballs. It's Texas Motor Speedway. They want to go big or go home, I guess. They'll be shooting human cannonballs after every stage. Let's start off with the qualifying procedure for this weekend. So, for the qualifying procedure for the All-Star format, there's going to be a pit stop challenge. You're going to have 3 or 4 laps to get around the track, I believe, and you'll be able to qualify. They're going to have the pit stops once again for the first time since 2019. That's something that's really, really exciting. For the open races, it's pretty much straightforward. There'll be 3 or 4 stages with each of the winners of the stages of those races moving on to the race to have an advance. And then, of course, we'll have the All-Star vote winner. Now, jumping into the All-Star race. Here's how the All-Star race is going to work. So, Stage 1, the winner of Stage 1, which will be a 25-lap stage. The winner of Stage 1, if they finish 15th or higher in the rest of the stages, they will start on the pole for the race. It will start immediately on the pole. For stage number 2, same thing, straightforward. The winner of stage 2 will start in second position, and that also will be a 25-lap window. Then there's going to be a stage break, for each team must pit and perform a 4-tire stop. The team with the shortest time on pit road will not only, I believe, win $100,000 of cash, so they'll win a lot of money, but they also will start fourth position if, of course, in stage 3, they finish higher than 15th. And in the stage number 3, of course, the winner will start third in the final race if they finish 15th or higher, and they will be basically 25 laps as well. Stage number 4 is going to be a 50-lap stage, the final stage of this race. If a natural caution occurs between 15 to 25 laps in the final stage, standard procedures will be in effect. But if a caution does not come out between the first 15 or 20 or 25 laps, NASCAR is going to throw a competition caution in the stage. Overall, I think this format is so much less complicated than it was last year. I think it's a lot better. The only negative thing I will say to this is, one, I do not like the fact that they're bringing competition cautions in. I don't remember if they're going to count yellows or not, yellow flags or not. I know that they did that at the dirt races when it came to some of the races, but I hope, in my opinion, that they don't count. I wonder if they're going to count caution laps. I don't remember if I remember correctly or not, if they're going to count caution laps or not in the stages, but the only negative I will say is the competition cautions. I don't like the fact they're bringing those inter-competition cautions. Really don't affect it. I think the race naturally needs to play out. Yes, I know it's an all-star race, so if you're going to have a competition caution, it shouldn't surprise anybody. That's happening at an all-star race, considering, like I said, it is the all-star race. But that really is the only negative I have. If I had to choose my ultimate all-star format, I think an elimination-style bracket would be really, really cool for an all-star format, or go back to the old way they used to do where a few people got eliminated at the stages every single time, and you had 10 or 12 guys going for the overall victory. I remember that. They inverted the field, and they would have elimination-style stuff. I think inverted fields would be really, really cool, but I like the fact they've kind of gone back to a much more simple and straightforward. Last year's format was just absolutely horrendous. My hope is that the car also races good, because, again, Texas hasn't put on a really, really good show. And I think the reason it's so much more easier this year, and the reason it's not so complicated, is because I think they know the racing has been generally better this year, except really in Martinsville, maybe some of the shorter races this year. I think we've had really, really good racing on intermediate tracks, so I think they're basically rewarding the track by giving it a much more simple race. Now, like I said, why they have human cannibals shooting off every single stage, don't ask me, ask SMI for doing this, and I will say eventually, I do think long-term when it comes to the All-Star race, I think we do need to move away from Texas Motor Speedway. I know the reason we have the All-Star race in Texas is so Texas can keep two dates, but I think especially with new ownership of the track, you really would think at some point they would go ahead and change it with Eddie Gossage no longer working at the track. That's really my thoughts on it, though, and I do think they need to switch it and switch up. Now, of course, it would have to be all SMI tracks, and it couldn't be ISC tracks, unless, of course, NASCAR would do it with other tracks that would be able to do that, but it had to be SMI tracks. That being said, though, I do like the All-Star format overall. I think it is a much better All-Star format this year. I think it's nice looking, and I think they did a really good job on the All-Star format, in my honest opinion. So, anyway, that's today's long NASCAR and motorsports video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And support me on Patreon as well. Description below for that. And comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts on the All-Star format? Do you like the All-Star format or not? Let me know in the comments below. And do you like that Larry McReynolds is back in the booth or not? Let me know in the comments below. This weekend, we have the NASCAR Cup Series and Xfinity Series race at Dover. If I'm off of work tomorrow, I should be able to record a race review for you guys for the Dover race. And then, of course, we have the Cup Series race, which there will be a review on the channel. And then Monday, I may have a video coming out on the new channel, but no guarantees at this time. Keep your eyes on your subscription boxes so you know what is going on in the future. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for more awesome NASCAR and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.